Shwmai a croeso cynnes, and welcome to the What's Your Story podcast. I'm James Owen, a Welsh filmmaker and storyteller, and I'm passionate about sharing stories. This podcast is all about business owners sharing their journey, and we'll be speaking with directors, entrepreneurs and creatives from all across Wales to learn from their experiences. We believe everyone has a story to tell. What's your story? Shwmai a croeso I What's Your Story, and I've got a really exciting guest in the studio today. Somebody I've gotten to know over these few years in the business community. We've had lots of conversations about regeneration, the economy, how businesses can improve, how communities can be built on things like placemaking, and all these fantastic things that really make a fantastic community in the business world. This person is a creative themselves. They have lots of experience in the creative industry, running their very own business. She is a social entrepreneur. I think that's fair to say. We have from For the Region, and iCreate is Dawn Lyle. Thank you, Dawn, for coming to speak with us.
Oh, thank you, James. Lovely to be here.
Yes, it is lovely, isn't it? I think it's lovely, so I'm glad you do too. But for those listening, because I'm always championing what For the Region does, but you also run your own business in the creative industries. So for those who are watching and listening, could you just give a little insight, a few sentences? What is For the Region and what is iCreate? And it's important to say that because you wear lots of different hats, don't you?
I have a lot of hats, and I'm not quite sure how they all overlap, but somehow they do. In background, I run a business called iCreate, and we're a computer graphics business, and we mainly do architectural visualization. So that means we do 3D fly-throughs of new buildings, showing what they'll look like. So all sorts of virtual reality and computer animation, mainly for the property sector. So that's what pays my mortgage. That's my first business, my first love, really. Been running that business for over 20 years in Swansea and proud of it. But then a few years ago, as you know, started a new organisation, a social enterprise, not-for-profit organisation called For the Region. And that takes up nearly all my time these days, but all really exciting. And I'm sure we'll talk more about that as we go on.
Just a quick one. With architecture visualizations, do they often look like the animations?
Absolutely, yeah. It's a real deja vu when you go and visit a new development for the first time and you're like, oh, I have been here before, because it looks exactly like it looked in the CGIs. So that's the aim, really, isn't it? To show what places will look like. The really exciting side of that is working with councils and regeneration agencies to show what new town centres will look like. We've done loads of work with Swansea Council over the years and Carmarthenshire Council, showing the vision for regeneration. And I think that's what sort of sparked my interest in regeneration and economic development generally in South West Wales.
Wow, so sort of coming through that business and business relationships. I'm guessing as well you've got good relationships with those businesses that you work with, because if you're going to work with a poor developer or a poor construction company, then they're not really going to deliver what was planned initially then, I guess. So it's important that you got those good, strong relationships, because I guess the architecture visualization is only as good as the building itself, because if it doesn't look like it, then it's a great video, but, it doesn't really sort of show what the building maybe should look like.
Well, do you know what I really believe in? And I think this connects all the things I do. I really believe in the power of visualization, right? So in an iCreate context, that's fairly obvious. We visualize new buildings. But I think that empowers our clients and their stakeholders if you can see what you're working towards, and especially building projects. I don't know if you've been involved in any building projects, but they are long. They're long.
I can knock them down.
Long, painful experiences, from having an idea and wanting to build something to actually having it finished, is a long and painful journey. But if you've got those visuals of what it's going to look like, that is not just useful from a planning permission perspective to show the planners, or from a marketing perspective to start selling new developments off plan, but I think it's powerful for yourself to think, I will get there, I will achieve this. So the power of visualization, visualizing what you're trying to achieve, I think that's important in everything we do, isn't it? Like mental visualization of where we'd like to get to. It is about visualizing something and then seeing it become real. That is exciting.
Well, you're a creative at heart. You wear lots of different hats, but you came here as a student to study. And that's where the business was born. You were studying in your second year of your degree, which I can't believe was in video largely, which I've just learned today. But yeah, you set up this business while you were studying here in Swansea.
Yeah, came to Swansea as a student in the year 2000 and studied in what is now University of Wales Trinity St David. It was Swansea Institute back in those days. Really just didn't intend to stay. You know, the first night I spent in Swansea, I was thinking, what am I doing here? Why have I come here? But then within 3 years, I just feel like that was the best decision we ever made to move to Swansea and never looked back. But yeah, started a company in our second year as a bit of a side hustle. So by the time we graduated, we had clients, we had a business, and as I say, never looked back.
A lot of similarities here, because I studied. I studied film, and I set the business up while I was studying, and then graduated, just carried on. Oh. So it's great to see that. And it's a family business as well, isn't it?
Well, that's the other similarity. I know you work with your wife, and I work with my husband.
Oh, no, not work with. No, I've got to say, Amy now owns the business like me. I've been told off a few times. Oh, I work with my wife. No, you don't. She's a co-director. Oh, yeah, okay, she is.
Okay, yeah, give it its proper due respect. Yeah, absolutely. Well, yeah, Jake and I are co-founders, so we've run the business together all these years, which has been a great journey, not without its challenges.
Journey, that's the perfect word, isn't it?
Yeah, journey. But yeah, we often think that the business that iCreate was like our first baby, and we ran that business for over 10 years before we had any real babies. But yeah, it's I think it's fantastic to be in business with your life partner, because it's the highs and the lows, isn't it? And it's great to have someone to share that with. And then you go through hard times, but you pull through. Yeah. Yeah,
for me, it's an immense joy. It is difficult in times. I think for myself, I find it quite easy to detach the emotion. For me, when I'm in work, I tend to be business mode. It's hard to be husband in the workplace because you've got to get things done. And I think where we've probably had some challenges with is things like feedback, right? Very early on, Amy came in and saved the business, right? If I take you back this time last year, Amy was off work with poor mental health. I dislocated my shoulder. So all of a sudden, couldn't pay our mortgage, no income coming in. So she was doing all the editing, right? I'm so grateful she was doing that, but probably for a good maybe 6 or 7 months, that was all she was doing was the editing. She was editing our client work. So I've got to give her feedback. And that feedback, a lot of the time, wasn't received very well. Because, of course, I'm her husband and I'm telling her work is terrible. I'm not saying it's terrible. That's lovely, Karen. This bit, yeah, great. But no, we need to use this shot. And it's hard then, because when there's a personal relationship, I can take the feedback on, no problem. We now run the business sort of more collaboratively together, and we've got a team of people that are working with us, which is great. But it's a great joy, challenging. But she's been there in the toughest times with me, and I think that if you have a spouse that maybe is employed, and you go home and you've had a terrible day, or something's happening in your own business, I think it's a lot easier for them to sympathise when they're in the business with you, because they got skin in the game, haven't they?
I can really relate to everything you've said there. Handling feedback in that context, and yeah, obviously, when we're working with someone that we're emotionally engaged with, it's hard to keep that professional demeanor sometimes, the way those relationships go. But yeah, knowing that we're both in it, it's a family business, it means a lot to us. And we've been resilient over the years. We've been in business for over 20 years, and it hasn't all been plain sailing. We were running a business in the property sector, architectural visualization, during the 2008 financial crisis. And that was a time that was a really difficult moment for our company. At that point, we were employing maybe around 20 people. But all our contracts basically got cancelled overnight because people stopped building property. They couldn't get their bank loans. They couldn't get the financing to build new developments. That was really difficult times. We shrunk the team right down, moved the office back into our home, and had to rebuild from there. But it's a great partnership.
Yeah, that alone, right? I know from experience getting an office space to hand the keys back to the landlord, wow, that's something you don't want to shout about from the rooftops, right? Because that shows failure almost. But it's those lessons that we learn in circumstances like that make us better business owners.
You have to be honest about things like that, because everyone goes through hard times, don't they? And it's all very well, sometimes, you and me have met at networking events. Is a temptation in networking events to pretend everything's great.
How's business?
Oh, brilliant.
Great, mental, flat out.
Busy, yeah, busy. And actually what you want is honest relationships with people, isn't it? And you've got to share the hard times as well as the successes.
You were part of this conversation, so it was at the AGM. I won't say who it was out of privacy, but I'd asked this person, how's business? And they swore. They said it's absolutely rubbish. And that blew me away a bit, because I said to this person, I'm really glad you've told me that, because that's so refreshing to hear the vulnerability and the honesty in that person, to say, actually, yeah, this sector is really struggling. So it's not often you hear that, is it?
My heart really breaks when I hear the struggles that businesses are having, and it breaks because I've been there and I know what that feels like, that sense of scarcity where you don't know where your next job is coming from. And it's heartbreaking how much passion and energy people put into running their own business, and I just want them all to succeed. And it's tough out there. It's really tough. So I think we've got to be real about those challenges.
So you've had a few babies, and after raising one of your children, you felt a bit bored, maybe wanted a different challenge in life. So tell me about the birth of For the Region.
Yeah, I came back to iCreate after maternity leave, and I think I was ready for a new challenge. But all through that time, I had been part of an organisation called Swansea Bay Futures. It doesn't exist anymore, but it's the precursor, if you like, to what For the Region is today. It was a council-led initiative, and it was about promoting Swansea Bay as a place to live, work, invest and visit. And that's where I met Zoe, who is my business partner in For the Region. And we used to look at each other across the board table in Swansea Bay Futures and think, oh, we could do this so differently. We both love where we live. We love South West Wales. We were excited about all the development and regeneration that was happening. But we were sitting around a table with a lot of men in suits, talking amongst themselves, and we just wanted to get out there and engage with people and businesses in the region. So when Swansea Bay Future had its day and was winding down, we thought, right, we'd do this differently. We can take this on. So we set up a social enterprise called For the Region, and that's number 4, the region, but it's for the region because we really believe in South West Wales and its future. And that was in 2018. So actually we're coming up to 8 years of running that organisation. And it's a mission-led initiative, really. It's a purpose-driven project. And I think that's what I was really looking for. I'm always interested in what's going on across South West Wales. I'm really interested in how the region is developing and the opportunities that there are here. And maybe coming from elsewhere and moving to Swansea, maybe you see it with different eyes to people than who've maybe lived here all their lives. I don't know, but I think it's sort of like the best place to live in the whole of the UK, including Llanelli in that,
Yes,
of course. South West Wales, how lucky are we? How lucky are we? It's a beautiful day today and you see it at its best, and you're here by the coast. How lucky are we? And as I walk around where I live or travel around the region, other people might see problems. I see amazing blessings, how lucky we are and how lucky people are to live in a region where we have a quality of life and we have access to nature and we have a slower pace of life and we have friendly relationships. So I've always loved where we live, and I think I just wanted to I guess we were frustrated at seeing how people weren't working together around those positive things. So, that's what we set out to do, to champion the positives, stand for something positive in South West Wales and get people working together for that vision.
Excellent. And well, it's inspired me to become a member for Story Cymru, to be a member of For the Region, and championing what you do. I absolutely love it, and we've got involved in lots of other things. You're Cat of Creative. We helping take a creative network off the ground, which has birthed one of these many ideas that For the Region has. It's amazing, and I think you're very good at facilitating. I think you facilitate us. That's probably the best sort of term to maybe explain what you do in some capacity, because for me as a business owner, being based in Carmarthenshire, so Carmarthenshire County Council being my local authority where the business lives in, and also I live in, I'm a resident as well. I do find sometimes things frustrating. When you want to get things done, you've got to do it with the local authority, and when they own buildings and they run programs and they operate grant funding, if you don't do it their way, you can't do it at all, and it's very frustrating. So for businesses to get more out of their local authorities, where there's funding, what can For the Region do, and what can businesses do to maybe have a better relationship with businesses? Because what I'm seeing on the ground, the micro businesses find it very challenging. If you're a very large employer, you probably got a good relationship with the council because there's jobs at stake potentially. But yeah, how can smaller businesses have better relationships with the likes of not just Carmarthenshire County Council, could be Swansea, could be Neath Talbot? How do businesses improve that? Is it a movement through For the Region?
It's really interesting to discuss all of that. It's a massive challenge, isn't it, to engage with local authorities, and they've got their different ways of working, and it's difficult for anyone outside of that to understand how to engage with a large organisation like that, or to tap into the support and the services that are perhaps available. But more than that, it's about who owns the future. This is a question for you. Who owns the future of our region, of our local places? Is it the council? Do they own the future of our local places? Or do we all own the future of our places? We always say the future of South West Wales, or the future of where we live, is in all of our hands. And so this idea that we've got to go through the council to get everything done, I think that's disempowering. So we're trying to create a sense and a movement around the idea that we all have agency, that we all have power, and that we should be working together and collaborating around the things that we care about. And we would love for the local authorities to really open up their decision making and open up their strategy and direction to what we call co-creation, for anyone in the region to get involved in those conversations. People have so many different skills. Everyone has a different perspective. Everyone has a different experience. Why can't we use all of that to create a region where we're all thriving? But I don't think that local authorities know how to do that. And so we exist to try and nudge in that direction, but also to create that opportunity for businesses and people to come together, share what they're doing, build relationships, and feel that sense of pride, ownership, and empowerment about our local places.
That is spot on. That is what we need. That is what we need. Co-creation. I mean, it's hitting not hitting a nerve, but it's very apt at the moment, because Carmarthenshire County Council, they've recently, it's on sale to Wales. Probably by the time this episode goes out, they will have awarded the tender. But there is a tendering opportunity for a consultancy to create a placemaking plan for the local authority for the three of the biggest towns in the region. So that will be Carmarthen town itself, Ammanford and Llanelli. There's 75 grand up for grabs to make a 5-year placemaking plan for these towns. There's been no consultation for this process. So they're going to get a consultant to come in and consult and make up a plan based on what? Because the community haven't got together to share what they want. So for me, this is very fresh and raw. And I think it'd be great to have that almost the humility in knowing, because I think you've put the nails on the head there. The local authorities don't know how to co-create, don't know how to collaborate positively with lots of stakeholders, but they've got to have the humility to go, okay, we might not know at all. Let's have a conversation, invite into that conversation. But for what I see locally on the ground, people in Carmarthenshire, they just make decisions and, who made that decision? And yeah, that's what I'm seeing is happening here in Carmarthenshire. But I'm sure lots of local authorities struggle. But at the end of the day, if you've got a thriving business, that's going to impact the local authorities, going to impact jobs, the economy. So, the councils need to do what they can to support the businesses. But also, I know it's on the businesses themselves, because you can't just give out free money. The grants are helpful for businesses, absolutely. But you can't just give money out, because that doesn't really solve any problems either.
Well, there's so much that what you've said there can touch upon. We're really passionate, as I said, about vision, having a shared vision. So placemaking plans are part of that. And hopefully, as the process rolls on, there will be opportunities for businesses and residents to feed into those placemaking plans. And that is definitely on the agenda. But I think it's a culture shift away from consultation towards co-creation. And I think that is a learning journey, because it's difficult. It's challenging. It's very difficult for a local authority to stand in a room and say, what do businesses want? What do people want? Because when we're in those spaces with the council, they can be quite argumentative spaces, because people are annoyed about something that the council has done, or if it's a politician standing up there, they want to challenge decisions that have been made. And so it's difficult for officers within the local authority to put themselves in that position, to be shouted at or told that what they're doing is not working. What we try to do at For the Region is create really safe spaces, kind of neutral spaces. We're a neutral organisation, and we are facilitators of a conversation, so that can be a positive and constructive discussion. But we know that decisions are better when more people are involved in making those decisions.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think the will is there, but it's like how to do it. And
For the Region need to be the non-exec directors of Carmarthenshire County Council. That's what it is.
I don't know whether everyone would agree with that. We would really love... We'd love to work really closely with the local authorities across the 4 counties, because For the Region covers Nice, Port Talbot, Swansea, Carmarthenshire and Pembrokeshire, and the same challenges are alive in all 4 local authorities. Of course, over the years, we have wished for much better collaboration. We would love to be a trusted partner in some of these processes, and hopefully we'll get there. But meanwhile, we're bringing together people, businesses and organisations with a love of where we live and an energy to make positive things happen. And one of the things that we do is a local forum for Carmarthenshire. So that is an event that is coming up quite soon. We held an event last year, bringing loads of people together in Parker Scarlets. And from all the discussions, we produced a really long and detailed report of what people said. We would love for local authorities to use that as evidence of what people think. We're collating so much input and different views and perspectives. Every decision that's made needs to be informed by as many voices as possible, and that's part of our mission.
By the time this will air, we would have had the event. So the event was fantastic, wasn't it, Dawn?
Thank you. Yeah, it was a great day.
But that report is interesting because, I've read the report. I've shared it with lots of people to encourage them to come to this year's event. Have you had any conversations with, because I'm guessing this will be the same for it's your Swansea, it's your Pembrokeshire. Have you had conversations with the local authority and presented some of this information and successes, maybe?
Nope.
Okay.
So I'll be honest there. We've got some friends and allies within all 4 of the local authorities. And we certainly share all of that with colleagues within the councils. But I wouldn't say we've completely cracked the nut in how to work in a co-creative way with the councils. And in some ways, I feel like for our own energy and well-being, we need to shift our focus away from that. Zoe and I often say it's not the only time we cry, but if you catch us crying, it's normally because of a sense of rejection from those who hold the power and who should be enablers, but actually who are blockers. And that is a really difficult part of what we do.
Okay, well, we need to change that, don't we? We need to somehow enable them, help them to enable themselves, maybe. But great. A lot of people who will be listening are probably maybe small business owners, entrepreneurs. What have you learned from maybe iCreate, For the Region? What have been some of the biggest lessons you've learned in running your own business and growing a business?
My passion for business is about trying to be of service. I'm really passionate about service-based businesses. There's this idea that a product-based business is potentially higher growth or whatever. I love being in a service-based business where you can really listen to what your clients' challenges are. You must have this experience as well. Really listen to what your clients' needs are and then propose a solution that solves that problem or meets that need. I kind of really love that. I love that, making yourself useful. And I like to think that if you can make yourself useful and provide a valuable service, then, you won't go without, that your business will do well. You keep your word, you deliver on your promises, and you make sure you're easy and pleasant to work with. So I guess those are sort of my fundamental principles about how I work. And I think resilience is a key thing. As I've already mentioned, you're going to have up days and down days. You're going to have struggles and challenges, and you just have to keep coming back. I've often thought about the importance of having like a 10-year mindset, because nothing happens overnight. And yet, if you work for 10 years and look back, you'll be amazed at what you've achieved. Now, you're still very young, James.
Am I?
So a 10-year mindset, you can do that. You can be proud to look back in 10 years' time and see the business that you have built. And for me, that was a big lesson. Like, how did we get to the point where we had a profitable, sustainable business, employing people, creating good jobs? Well, we worked at it every single day for 10 years, 20 years, turning up, showing up, doing your best, making the decisions that are on the table in front of you to make. That sort of sense of persistence, I think, is really key.
Wow, that's some good insight there for somebody like me to learn from 10 years. I mean, some of us struggle with a 1-year plan, but having that 10-year mindset, that's quite the challenge. Because, but I believe, we've spoken a lot here about visualization. I think it's important, if you've got a goal in mind, is to see that, whether it's in a video or it's just some post-it notes on a wall or on a whiteboard, isn't it? It's that seeing it helps you visualize it. I give an example. I don't know if this is visualization, manifestation. I am hoping this year, this is on the record now, I am hoping to go and watch the Formula 1 in Monza. So I'm 30 this year, which is a big birthday. I was hoping to get some money to go and do that. So I lost my mother earlier this year. I was expecting some form of an inheritance. Unfortunately, me and my sister have got absolutely nothing. There's nothing left from my mother's inheritance, which is very disappointing when you expect to have something. So I've said, well, if I won't have the money gifted in some way, then I'm going to have to pay for it myself. So I've said to myself, we can't afford to go, but I've said to Amy, we are going to watch the Formula 1 in Italy in September for my birthday. But I'm hoping, by me telling myself this sort of thing, it will help me get there. And I think there's real power when you can, whether it's proclaiming or it's declaring something, a situation, it helps you visualize that and hopefully get there.
Believing in it, isn't it? Believing that what you want is possible, and then the ways and means will reveal themselves. That's the idea, isn't it? And it's worked in my life. I remember right at the beginning of starting a business, it was a dream for me to have a creative company where I loved going to work and where people loved going to work. And we were, top of our game with lovely clients. That came true. And started with a vision. Everything starts with a vision, isn't it, of what you want to achieve. Now we've got this massive vision, which is a happier, healthier South West Wales with a thriving economy. That's a massive vision. And that's not something me and Zoe can achieve on our own, but that's a mission and a vision for South West Wales. We're the sort of holders of that vision. We want to align ourselves with people and businesses and organisations that share that sense of possibility for our region and co-create that through all the work of all the businesses and everything that community groups and organisations are doing, and the brilliant work that local authorities are also doing.
Yes.
The combined effort, let's hold to that vision of a happier, healthier South West Wales with a thriving economy. And if we say it enough and we believe it enough, It will happen.
It will happen. I will vote for you, Dawn. I'll vote for you. No, that's fantastic. Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And I've loved to see. Well, I've loved seeing the story of For the Region developing, and you've been going for some time, and you've launched this new 5-year plan. Witnessed that at this year's AGM. Hope there's more emphasis on creative, because you're a creative at core. We need the creatives to maybe help deliver and visualize these sorts of things, isn't it? But it's exciting. It's exciting to see that. I want to ask you this. Who in your decades of experience, gosh, I've made you sound old. You're not old, Don. You're not old. We've got decades of experience in the creative industry, running this new social enterprise. Who has inspired you over these years and has maybe asked yourself that question? That I'd love to hear a bit more about what they've done. This podcast is all about storytelling. And yeah, I'd just love to hear whose story, Dawn, would you love to sit down and hear more about?
Well, you're putting me on the spot now because I knew you were going to ask me this, and I've been thinking and trying to come up with those people that I would love to speak to. There are people I really admire as facilitators and as conveners. There's a woman called Margaret Wheatley. She's an inspiration to me about how we bring people together and create new possibilities through conversations. Actually, I'm lucky enough to have the opportunity to hear from and to speak to so many of the amazing entrepreneurs and business owners in our region. We run loads of panel discussions at our events. We run an amazing event called the For the Region Startup Expo. And we were lucky enough last year to have you on the stage as one of our speakers. I love that. I love hearing from other people about their business startup journeys. And I've always loved that because we learn so much, don't we, from the experiences of other people. So yeah, those are highlights for me, hearing from entrepreneurs who've started businesses and made them grow and who've got wisdom to share. So I'm not going to pin it to one particular person, but just to say that I share your love of stories, and I think they're so powerful.
Well, that's why we started the podcast, to be honest. You know, it was having a genuine interest and fascination in how some of these businesses started. There are two people I want to hear, and they're yet to come on the podcast. Hugh Owen, who runs Owens. They've been going for over 50 years. Ian wants to come on here. But I'll be honest, I don't want to hear Ian's story. I want to hear Hugh's. Hugh started the business from small, humble beginnings. Brian Jones, Castell Howells. Two massive Welsh family-owned businesses that they inspired me to sort of start this conversation. And we've had a few on here over the last couple of months. But Dawn, thank you so much for coming on. And if anyone wants to know more about iCreate, or they want to know more about For the Region and how they can get involved, what do we say to those listening and watching? How can they hear more about you, Dawn?
Well, I suppose in the normal way of things, both those organisations are on social media, if anybody is still on social media. But yeah, our website is iCreate.co.uk or fortheregion.org.uk. And you know, one of the things, it's nice to be on a podcast where I can say the word For the Region, because how many people call us the fourth region, or some kind of jumbled term of like fourth region. So fortheregion.org.uk, all our latest plans, upcoming events and ways to get involved and engaged are on there. So please do connect with us.
Awesome. Well, thank you, Dawn, for coming to share your story of a creative student who was inspired to set up their own business here in Swansea, and to hear you take that inspiration to help encourage, inspire, alongside Zoe as well, to inspire other businesses to come on the journey of creating a thriving Southwest Wales. I'm very much on that journey with you, and I hope that we can play a small part in making our communities more proud, a prouder community that we learn, live, play and work in. So thank you for all the work you're doing, and I hope to continue supporting that for years to come. Diolch, Dawn.
Diolch. Thanks so much, James. You are an inspiration, and you are a massive ambassador for all the positive things that businesses can be in this region, and thank you for being such a friend of our movement.
Diolch.
Diolch.